Hi, this is Utkarsh Patel. First and foremost, I would like to thank Shrimati Uma Rele of Nalanda Nritya Mahavidyalaya to invite me to speak at the Nalanda WebShaala. It is a great moment for me to be amongst the dance fraternity, especially for someone who has never danced even 2 steps in his life. I teach comparative mythology, and I'm going to speak about the benefits or the importance of studying mythology. But let's begin at the very beginning. What is a myth? A myth is a traditional tale fostered in faith and constructed to signify human existence on this earth. Myths are building blocks in making a worldview within which a civilization operates. Myth is humanity's attempt to grasp the reason and the purpose for existence. Speaking in a language of metaphor and symbol, myths create vivid worlds and beings, though they don't always refer directly to ordinary world around us. Still, provides answers to our fundamental questions about the true nature of the world around us. But aren't myths to be read, heard, or enjoyed? What's there to study mythology is a question that I am asked quite often. Well, myths are often stories which are symbols of fundamental truths, especially societies which have a very strong oral tradition. They are attempts to give significance to life situations that we consider important, like birth, death, concepts like good or evil, love, passion, and so on. However, among all, the most important of them are the ones dealing with cosmology, that is, creation of the world. Often myths have helped people to explain many a sacred belief or even tradition. Rules have a very strong bearing on myths, and many a ritual have a myth for its rationale. Myths help us to ask basic questions about human meaning, and this is what gives them a continued relevance even in modern times. In times of science, these myths are still providing us with encouragement, a way to come out of our present insecurities, and if you dig deep, you will find that they have been alerting us about our present day concerns. It's just that we have not been listening to these myths correctly. Let me tell you an important or a very interesting Greek myth, which is called Aphrodite's infidelity. It's an interesting myth which, through the act of infidelity, sends so many messages for people of its time. But let me introduce the characters first. Aphrodite. She's the goddess of love, and she's the wife of Hephaestus. Hephaestus is the blacksmith of the gods. His primary work is to create weapons for gods. Ares is the god of war and very handsome. And Helios is the sun god. Poseidon is the god of rivers and oceans. Aphrodite and Hephaestus did not have a very happy married life, as Aphrodite never liked the old and lame Hephaestus. From his end, of course, Hephaestus too was very busy with his craft and did not make any effort to work on the relationship, which wasn't going anywhere. Ares was a handsome young man, and soon Aphrodite and Ares were meeting at Hephaestus's home during his absence. During one such escapade, Helios, the god of light, sun god, who's generally everywhere during the day, saw them together in Hephaestus's bed. He reported the matter to Hephaestus, who was very angry. Hephaestus planned to catch them red-handed. Hephaestus made a fine invisible net of bronze and laid it on his bed. He left for his work soon after. When Ares saw him leaving, he immediately came to Aphrodite and both headed for the bed. No sooner had they gone to the bed, both of them were ensnared in this invisible net, so much so that they couldn't even move. On getting the message from Helios, Hephaestus came back and caught them in the act. He made a lot of noise and called all the gods and goddesses to come and see both of them. The goddesses were embarrassed by the act of Aphrodite, and so they all stayed back. But the gods came and took a voyeuristic pleasure in seeing both in the act, with not a shred of cloth on either of them. Some gods made fun of Hephaestus for making a marital issue public, while some envied Ares, while still others just laughed at their predicament. After much embarrassment, Poseidon, the god of seas, decided to mediate. He requested Hephaestus to let go of Ares after making him pay a fine for adultery. Poseidon even agreed to stand guarantee for the payment. Hephaestus released both of them, and Ares immediately left the city. It is said that Aphrodite gave birth to a child later who was named Harmonia. The word harmony has its origin here. On the surface of it, the myth gives a moral message against infidelity, which I will skip, as I'm sure all of you have understood this. Let me give you an insight into the symbolism of such myths. According to some scholars, this was a comment on the art of blacksmithing. Fire, that is Hephaestus, softens iron, that is Ares. In this work, as in any work for that matter, one needs to apply passion, that is Aphrodite. After the iron has been softened, one needs to use water, that is Poseidon, to cool it off. From this myth, one can surmise that the essence of hot and dry and its opposite, that is cold and wet, sometimes draws the universe together and sometimes even pulls it apart. When together, it gives birth to harmony. This is one of the most beautiful interpretations of an otherwise obvious tale of infidelity. Some scholars have gone ahead to say that the union of Aphrodite and Ares, while it amounts to adultery, the two are not naturally inclined to be together and thus goes against the norm. But if they get together, they produce harmony. Some scholars have interpreted the laughter of the gods to, according to them, the union of love, Aphrodite, and strife, that is Ares, is a cause for joy, which is to be seen in the form of divine laughter as against the cynical as seen in the myth. Whatever message one takes is one's own self, but one thing is for sure, the myth is pregnant with inherent symbolism. Without a deep understanding of how myths work, one would have simply seen this myth as a message against adultery and leave it at that. Or take another example from the Welsh myth of Ceridwen and Gwion. According to this myth from the Welsh, Ceridwen was a goddess. Sometimes in some versions she is also referred to as a witch, who had an ugly looking son. To compensate for his lack of looks, Ceridwen decided to prepare a potion which on consuming would make him have all the knowledge of the world. However, the pot in which she would be making the potion had to be kept on boil for a year. At the end of the year, it would give 3 drops to consume, and the rest had to be thrown away as it would be amounting to poison. After the setting of the potion to boil, Ceridwen appointed one of his servants by the name of Gwion to keep watch on the pot. At the end of the year, the potion bubbled over and the 3 drops fell on Gwion's fingers. Feeling the heat of the boiling potion, he put the finger in his mouth out of reflex. He soon realized that he had all the knowledge of the world because he had consumed those 3 drops of knowledge which Ceridwen had prepared for her son. He also realized that when Ceridwen would find it out, she would not leave him alive. So he ran away from there. But Ceridwen soon caught up with him and chased him. Using the acquired powers, Gwion took the form of a hare, a rabbit, but Ceridwen became a greyhound. Gwion then became a fish and jumped into the river. But there too he was chased by Ceridwen, who had taken the form of an otter. Gwion then became a bird and flew out in the sky, but Gwion took the form of a hawk. Seeing no alternative, after trying earth, water and sky, Gwion took the form of a grain of a corn and hid in a stack. But Ceridwen ate him up after she assumed the form of a When Keridvan took her usual form again, she realized that she was pregnant. She then decided to kill Gua when he was born. But when the child was born, he was so beautiful that she did not have the heart to kill him. So she put him in a leather bag and set him in a river, where the baby was found by a prince. And it is said that this baby grew up to be the legendary Welsh poet Taliesin. This is an interesting myth when we see it in details. While the tale gives the divine origins of the Welsh bard, there is more to the myth than just that. The very idea of empowering her ugly son with knowledge emphasizes that knowledge is more important than one's looks. Keridvan was sure that once the child had knowledge of the world, his looks would not matter. Second, brewing knowledge for a year goes on to show that it takes time to be learned and knowledgeable. Even in mythology and for a goddess, it doesn't come easy. One has to work on it and allow it some time. Let's look at another option. Though the potion was being brewed for Keridvan's son, it ended up with Creon. This goes on to show that knowledge will always reside with the one who has worked on it. It was Creon who spent 1 year brewing it, so it was but natural that he should be the recipient of the knowledge and not Keridvan's son. Finally, and probably the most important inherent symbolism, is that knowledge has the power to transform you, change you. Once you have tasted the fruits of wisdom, it acts as an agent of transformation. Beyond's ability to change from an earthling to a bird to a fish and translate all the realms of earth is symbolic of his ability to experience life-changing instances due to the acquired knowledge. An interesting myth with many dimensions of hidden symbolism. Taliesin went on to become one of the most renowned bards, who is supposed to have served in the courts of about 3 Welsh kings. While myths have a significance in our daily lives, as we just saw, there is no denying its significance in dance or performing arts in general. Rather, in India, myths have been the richest source of inspiration for literature, drama, and many other art forms. A thorough understanding of the myth enables the performer to bring out the true meaning of the myth, unraveling the deeper metaphorical meaning and delving into the psyche of it, rather than just enact it. Without this deeper understanding, one cannot bring out the bond between the self and the society. However, amongst all the art forms, probably dance has a symbiotic relationship with myths. Some of the first proofs of dances come from cave paintings which are dated about 9,000 years old, which depict scenes of celebration, drinking and dancing of tribe members after a successful hunt. These dance performances were soon adopted as an effective way to describe various myths and often astronomical events too. Since the lack of the written word prevented knowledge to pass effectively into new generations, dance served as a storytelling method to tell of the times past and convey the rich heritage of our myths. Dance became an important medium of not just an expression of ageless myths, but often became a part of rituals in many cultures. Many ancient rituals were accompanied with dances, which were either to invoke different gods and goddesses, or sacrifices, or even for invoking the rain gods, which was a very common practice across the world. Homer's Greek epic Iliad mentions chorea, a circular dance form accompanied with singing. The dance of the Furies in the Greek myths again was a form of vengeful dance by the spirits of the underworld. The ancient Scandinavians has seen the Maypole dance, which is variously seen as a fertility or even a community dancing, remnants of which are visible even today. The Native American tribes are known to have their own ritual dance forms, which are often sacred and which were performed in honor of the creator gods. In China, they had the dragon dance and the lion dance, which were 2 distinct forms of dances there. Finally, various classical dance forms find a mention in the Indian treatise, the Natya Shastra. And of course, we have the great Shiva performing the divine dance of Tandav as Nataraj, the depiction of which is nothing short of breathtaking. I won't go into the other classical dance forms, but would once more just impress upon the fact that myths and dance forms have a symbiotic relationship, and it is imperative on the part of the dancers to know and understand the meaning of the myths and unravel the allegorical significance of them. Myths have given rise to many a masterpiece in art, be they in the form of Raja Ravi Verma's paintings in India or Michelangelo's paintings in the Sistine Chapel. The same can be said in literature, where poets from Kalidas, who have given us classics like Abhigyan Shakuntalam, to modern day dramatists like Girish Karnad, who have given us the famous Hayavadana or the Hayagriv, to Dharamveer Bharati's Andhayug. Myths have been the regular source of content for art, drama, and any other art forms. Dance forms like Bharatnatyam to Kathakali to many a folk form have all narrated myths or episodes from myths. Films too have not been left untouched by the power of myths. Be they the likes of Star Wars, which have borrowed heavily from the journey of the mythical hero, to Hollywood films, to Indian films, right from the time Dada Saib Phalke made his first films, to even today, which borrow themes or episodes from mythology to make films. However, it is important to mention that be it dance or any other art form, a complete knowledge of myths and a true understanding of myths is critical to portray them correctly or even contemporaneously. Unless one knows the true meaning of the myths, one will not be able to give it a new meaning, or what we call revisioning of the same, especially when we know that myths carry within them the metaphorical identities, which, if exploited correctly, can result in a new interpretation of the mythical situation. Without a true understanding of the myth, one cannot interpret its meaning on stage or elsewhere. A classic case is Kalidasa's Abhigyan Shakuntalam. While the play is a classic by any standards and is a masterpiece of Indian literature, a deeper study reveals that the character Shakuntala is a very different character as portrayed in the original portrayal in Mahabharata. Yes, Shakuntala is a creation of Rishi Vyas, and much like his later heroines in the epic Mahabharata, Shakuntala was a fiery and a strong individual who had the courage to stand up to Dushyant, the king of Hastinapur, unlike the damsel in distress as per the popular perception. Without a deeper knowledge of myths and epics, one wouldn't have known about it, and even more important, why the character underwent such a metamorphosis in Kalidasa's dance drama. The same can be said about many a mythical character or even episodes which have undergone a change of meaning from time to time. Take the case of Lakshman Rekha. What was a line drawn to protect Sita soon became a line for restricting women. Lakshman Rekha is also sometimes referred to as Maryada Rekha, or the limiting line. A line drawn to protect a woman soon became a line to restrict women within the threshold of the house. A woman's influence and her limits were within the threshold, and her stepping out of the zone was a strict no-no. This was also seen as a cultural divide. Inside the line was the cultured household of a family, and outside was the zone of a jungle which had no rules and no civil norms of behavior. To be within the confines of the line was to be safe under the umbrella of one's husband or the patriarch. But once outside, one lost the comfort of respect and support. Outside the line, a woman could not command the same status and could thus be susceptible to the vagaries of the laws of the jungle, which was different from that of a civil society. To conclude, I would like to add that without a serious study of myths, one will never be able to unravel the true meaning of our myths and bring out its true meaning, be it for stage or on paper. Without an understanding, one will only show or depict the myths superficially without doing justice to its original meaning and the context. I see myths as a window to a culture and its milieu. Without a proper understanding of the context, we will only be telling stories. Just to explain what I just said, imagine all that survived of the New Testament were stories of Jesus walking around performing miracles with no context or deeper meanings attached to it. In that case, we would simply have myths of a Jewish wizard and miss the deeper spiritual meaning of his life and his message. That's what myths are without a deeper understanding of them. Finally, whether you believe in myths or not, I'm sure you will agree that myths have created a spectacle by its unforgettable language of powerful and evocative images that has fired our collective imagination for millions and millions of years. Thank you.